All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Ebony, a.k.a. Fit Mom Diva of Simplicity Health Style, and today we have Miss Shirley with us. How are you, Shirley?
Hi. Well,
I'm so glad that you were able to take time and speak to us today, you guys. She is a busy mom and wife, and she doesn't have a whole lot of time taking care of a young baby. So please stick around and listen to the end. And if you do, you will have an opportunity to earn a complimentary gift. So let's stick around and listen to what Miss Shirley wants to share with us today. Shirley, can you start us off just by sharing a motivational quote, something that really inspires you and encourages you?
yeah. I just wanted to start off reading a passage that really sticks out to me, and it's in Philippians 4:11-13. It says, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. I chose this as my inspirational quote because I remember reading this, like, I didn't grow up like in the church or anything. I grew up in a really Buddhist home, or just traditionally Buddhist. And so the Bible is just like very foreign to me. Like, I first read this verse when I was in college, and I was going through a really rough patch during that time, just very low, very depressed, in college, and really just trying to search the meaning of life. And I remember reading this quote, and I just thought, like, wow, how freeing it would be to live like that, to not be so just affected by your circumstances so much. Like, growing up, I've always, my mom is a super peppy, like super happy, cheerful woman and lady. And I think I got a lot of her joy from that. And so in general, like, my demeanor growing up was very happy, but then there was just like this internal like struggle, or an internal, like, I don't know what would you call it, but just like this like roller coaster going on in me, like, where a lot of like my feelings, or just how I felt, like, not how I was perceived, but how I felt was based on circumstances. So whether do people like me, do I have a boyfriend, or if my boyfriend didn't cheat on me, does that means I'm worthy, or like, because he cheated on me, that means I'm not worthy. And I was so easily shaken by just like the things that were happening around me, like all the time. And I just remember feeling like how free I would love to live like that. Like, I would love to learn to be content in all things, and to just not be fazed by something so minor, and let it just blow up, like, blow up it and kind of take over the tone of my day. So that's the inspirational quote I chose, because to me, that's what motivates me. Like, if you ask me the question, like, what motivates you, I wouldn't be like hardship, challenges motivate me. Like, I'm not that, like, in the midst of challenge, I'm like, no, get me out of this. I don't want it anymore. I want to be comfortable. But when I really reflect on my life, I really see those challenges and going through those challenges being a fuel for me and motivates me to reach out to people and relate to people. So this quote really sticks out to me because Paul, the author of this book, talks about how he's been through it, like, so
Right.
It's relevant to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that because it's very naive for you to think that you're never, ever going to experience challenge. Because really, if you never experience challenge, how on earth do you expect to ever grow in this world? you know? So having that mindset of, even in the midst of challenges, I'm still going to be able to be content and happy and get through this. It might be a temporary sadness, a temporary anger, a temporary depression. But really, when we stop and think about it, some of those things that happened to us a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, you're looking back at it like, wow, that really wasn't a big deal. It felt like a big deal at the time, but now you see that you were able to grow through that and your life goes on, essentially.
Right.
So having that mindset of that you don't necessarily always have to be swayed by external circumstances, will just lift your mood that much more. Can you talk about a time when you had a goal or a dream that you wanted to bring through to fruition, but you experienced a lot of external circumstances that really were placing a lot, it was just felt like a lot on you? Because we all know, as I said, it's not all sunshine and daisy. So talk about that experience and what helped you to get to that end goal.
Yeah. For me, growing up, when I went into college, college was a very like formative year in my life. So I'm talking about that a lot because it's really shaped me and really kind of shaped and is the was the form was really it just really was formative to the trajectory of my life and where I am right now. But I think for me, when I was in college, I was really trying to look for like a career that will like, what do I love that's going to make me the most money? Like, and I've always loved working with children, but I always heard like teachers being like overworked and underpaid. And I was like, I don't want that. So I immediately like just threw that out the window, but that was like what I was passionate about. But so in college, I just went through a lot of different like major switches, and I volunteered for a program called Jumpstart, and it's a nonprofit literacy program that bridges the literacy gap from the rich and the poor to kind of like to bridge the literacy gap, because there's a huge literacy gap between an affluent population and underprivileged population. And when I volunteered that during freshman year, and it was like approaching my junior year and I'm about to graduate, I'm like, I've been volunteering in this like program and I love working with children. I feel like there's so much work that needs to be done that I still want to do in the field of child development, that like I felt like as because I was majoring in nutrition at that time, which I love nutrition too, but to me I felt like, oh, if I'm graduating, I'm not going to be working with children anymore. I felt like there was a lot of unfinished business or like just unfinished work that I felt like I needed to be a part of.
Right.
And in college was also when I found my faith in Jesus and had a relationship with him. And I felt like that really emboldened me to really pursue my calling in working with children. So I decided to switch majors and change my major and pursue child development. Well, actually, I pursued family studies, and it's in child care administration. So it still allows me to be a preschool teacher. And I was really confident in that. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm passionate about working with children because I grew up in an environment where like children are kind of like, you'll learn when you get older. Like, kids can't do this. But I felt like as a child, like I was capable of more, like, and I just needed to be empowered. And it really, for me, like I'm passionate about empowering young children. And so that's where like that passion came from. It came from a place where I totally can relate to, and it's very personal to me. Right. So I remember like graduating, and I got a job, and I was working in downtown LA in this childcare facility, and it was like maybe a month into my job, I was like, I was a substitute teacher at that time, so I was kind of just floating around different classrooms and just doing the little things that needs to be done in between that teachers can't do, or like, so I remember like just cleaning up like the food that the children, like when they're eating, I remember I was in a toddler class, and half their lunches are on the floor. So someone needs to pick it up, and it's not the toddlers because it's nap time. Right. So I was like scooping and sweeping up the food, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it just like dawned on me, like, did I go to college did I go to school my whole life to be sweeping up trash, And that moment like made me sad, and I was like, I have a college degree and I'm like cleaning food off like the floor, and I was just like, it really like marked me, or like it made me, it was a really low moment, like being a new graduate, and yeah. And I just remember praying about that and just being really sad about like, just, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? I want to work with children, and there's this glamorous like vision I have to empower young children, and I'm like sweeping trash, you know, their lunch. So like, I remember just praying about it, and I felt like God was telling me to be faithful with the little. Like and I don't know if you're anything like me, I'm very fast paced. I'm like doing, like go from one thing to another. And like, my mind can shoot like a machete gun, like, you know, with all kinds of thoughts really quickly. And I just remembered, and it really takes me a lot of effort for me to sit down and listen, or just even have some peace and quiet, and like, just to take that little moment in your day. And I remember I was praying to God about like just my circumstances, and feeling like so disappointed about it, being just a new teacher, and not sure if I made the right decision. And I felt like God saying, be faithful with the little. It's kind of inspired by, in the Bible, it talks about in Luke, like those who are entrusted with little would be entrusted with much, and those who are dishonest with little would be dishonest with much. And like, that made me really like, it wasn't I didn't read this, it wasn't the scripture that like I heard, but I heard be faithful with the little. And to me, I was just like, and it made me reflect, like, who am I when nobody's looking? Right. Who am I when like, yeah, like no one's looking? Like, am I just kind of like, am I doing, can I, if I'm going to be a janitor, can I be the best janitor ever? You know, like, right. Can I do that? Like, can God be enough if it's just between me and God and he sees me, you know? And like, that really motivated me. And I'm like, yes, it is enough. But like, you know, so that like changed my life. Like, and ever since then, like whatever job I'm tasked with, like however little or minor it is, like, I'll like, yes, I'll do it, you know? And that's just really something that, yeah, like that really motivates me. That I want to be one that like God sees and finds faithful with the little things, you know, and can be trusted with much if he deems me worthy. You know?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes having that mindset allows you to be more appreciative and grateful for what it is in your lap at the moment, because sometimes we can have these big dreams and big aspirations and be frustrated and anxious or depressed because it hasn't come to fruition yet, when we can just be appreciative of what we have right now and say, well, there's more to come later. And that doesn't mean that this present moment sucks just because I don't have it in the grasp of my hand right now.
Yeah.
I've tended to be very fast paced with certain things as well, and have a lot of control over what happens next. But in those situations where you can't have that control over what happens next, it's a very humbling experience to say, okay, well, that didn't quite go the way I planned. So let me just trust God because he knows best, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's an awesome mindset to have. Do you have any words of encouragement for people that feel like they really don't have a very strong spiritual relationship, whatever that faith is? Whether it's, I know you said you grew up in a Buddhist home, so whether that's Buddhist, a Muslim home, Christian home, whatever, they don't have much of a spiritual connection at all. What would you suggest to those individuals?
Yeah. I think like one thing that is universal is just taking the time to slow down, you know, like and for me, I live in the city, so it's really fast paced too. And being a fast paced person, that's not very conducive to slowing down, but nature is healing, and there's just so and this doesn't have to be like you have to go to Mount Fuji or, you know, Machu Picchu to really find like this like peace, you know, or this like solitude. But it's just even a moment on my couch, just sitting down, closing my eyes, and really trying to just get out of the zone, like, you know, just to take your mind off of what you've just been like grueling yourself through, like a day to day, you know. That's just taking the time to slow down, I feel like, because we're kind of like operating, or for me, I operate off a lot of like, you know, different thoughts. I'm like, okay, I should do this and do that and do this and do that. And sometimes just slowing down allows me to just take things into perspective and or reflect. The reflection is so important to me, because you can go through a lot of hard stuff but not really learn anything from it, and you really need that window of like reflection and quietness to be able to like learn from what just had happened, you know. Otherwise you're just like, well, that sucked, and then the next thing sucks, and it could just be like a vicious cycle of like depressive thoughts, you know.
Right.
Just taking the time to slow down and read. I love reading, and whether it's like, if I have time, not so much to read books anymore, but I still try to whenever I can. But like, if I can't read a book right now, I'll read articles. I'll go online and just like read blogs, or there's just, I feel like there's so much to learn, to continue to be a learner, stay curious, because that continues to inspire you. And just know that you're not alone. And I think we all can connect on a human level, even when we have different like labels, or different religions or different ethnicity or different backgrounds, we can relate on a human level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I love your next project idea, which is one that really takes a lot of heart and compassion to connect with your fellow man. Would you like to talk at all about what that is?
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit of what I shared in this interview, which is like, be faithful to little. Like, sometimes we're always like we want like something like a title of some sort, or like to work for an organization to make an impact. But I really want to like encourage people that, like, if you have the passion that you're passionate about, like, you don't have to wait for something grandeur to be impactful. Like, so for me, I work for a private preschool, and but I live in the inner city, so I work, I can, even though I'm not working with children that are underprivileged, I live around them, and I can I started gardening because a lot of times in the inner city, children don't have access to nature, whether it's because their parents don't have cars, or taking the bus to the beach could be like 2 hours, and maybe in between, or even longer, because if a bus breaks down or whatever happens, you know. And so like, I feel like children in the inner city need a connection to nature, to see a perspective that is like, their life is greater. Like, there's more to life than what they see. If it's domestic violence that they're living in, or it's drug, or it's a gang related environment, or just whatever their life is, there's more to it. So one of the things I'm passionate about and would love to do one day is maybe to create like a little magic school bus or something, to invite children in these communities, to bring them to like nature, and to connect with nature. And that's kind of like some initiatives that I was thinking about, or even starting a neighborhood like community garden where the youth can run the cafe, or like different, or sell the produce that we make. And because a lot of times, like in the inner city, organic living is not always the most affordable, and in order to make it affordable for people that don't have much money, like, it's to grow it, you know. So those are some things that I have in mind. But as I keep being faithful to little, I believe that those little things, though, this will kind of like come into play. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that they would be so appreciative if you definitely pursue that. And I could just imagine all of their faces just lighting up, because as you said, it's not as easy as, oh, well, just go get in the car and observe nature in every geographical location. That's not always that possible. So I think that having something like this would encourage them to also move outside of their community and see that there's more to life so that they can strive to be the best that they can be during their development years, and see that they don't have to settle in that environment. I think that that's one of the things that helped my mom when I was growing up. She said that my grandfather, her father, she grew up in Baltimore City, but he would take her outside of the city to see new things, see how other people lived. And so that was some encouragement to say, well, I'm not stuck here all my life. And there's nothing wrong with living in Baltimore City if that's where you want to live. But she just knew that there was more outside of that, and she could see and compare and contrast what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. So doing something like that is not just them getting out and seeing nature. It's also building their self-esteem and building their confidence and building their awareness to what more that this world has to offer them.
Yeah.
I love that. What is the best way for people to connect with you? Because you never know, there might be somebody out there that wants to connect with you on your project in some kind of way, or they might just want to follow your journey. What's the best way for them to follow you, connect with you, and perhaps collaborate with you on a different type of project later on in the future?
Yeah, I'd say the best way would be Instagram. I think contrary to what people think about social media, like Instagram has really been a reflective like platform for me. Like whenever there's a photo that I love, like I spend some time to look at it and just to embrace that moment and reflect on like just whatever that moment encapsulated. And a lot of my life is kind of like little highlights of my life and moments, whether they're highlights or lowlights actually. They're on Instagram. So yeah, just connect with me on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. All right, awesome. And all of her contact info will be in the description box. So you'll be able to connect with her if you resonate with her message. And if you feel like you don't resonate, but you know someone that it could benefit, please share this out to your friends and family, because you just don't know who you might inspire or influence. If any of you also want to share your successes, your challenges, your stories, any ideas that you have coming up to build this world up, please connect with me. My information is also in the description box, and you can feel free to join my Nutrition for Busy Women Facebook group. That's a community of positive, like-minded women that are all about purpose while living a whole and healthy lifestyle. So if you want to become more intimate with me and receive a whole lot of support, I love helping and supporting other people. So if you want to receive support in that way, just connect with me in my Nutrition for Busy Women group, and you'll earn a complimentary gift for doing so. Do you have any last words of encouragement, Shirley, to anybody that may be listening?
I think just to know that you're not alone. Someone else out there, just like there's that one saying where like somewhere out there there's the 5 o'clock hour, you know, or for happy hour, but like somewhere out there there's someone that relates to you, that is also knows how you feel and been there and gone through it. So yeah, there's always hope. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And for those of you that were inspired by her interview before we started interviewing together, she didn't think that her story was necessarily so traumatic. And she's like, I don't know if this is really, you know, that impactful. It's not a sob story. And I think that too many times just us not opening our mouth, that's not impacting anybody at all. So just opening your mouth and talking about whatever you want to talk about, most of the time you're going to be able to relate to somebody, and you will impact at least one person by doing so, no matter how small or big it is. I don't think that you have to have something big and major in order to make an impact. Your light enough can impact others. So thank you so much, Shirley. I really do appreciate your time. And for those of you that are listening, as I said, if you want to connect with me and share your story as well, you can feel free to do so. And for those of you that are listening that feel as though this can be influential to someone else, please, again, remember to share this out. And no matter where you are in the world, just remember to always live a life full of meaning and purpose. I'll talk to you guys in our next episode.